After 4 rounds of the Bilbao Masters tournament, Vishy Anand has 3 wins and a draw. It looks like he's picked up his form again from the Candidates tournament, and he's playing very smoothly. I wanted to take a look at his first round game against Ruslan Ponomariov, former FIDE world champion, and well, still only 31 years old, no slouch. He really outplayed Ponomariov, and well, we joined the game after 47 moves. It was a complex King's Indian, but Anand took control, and really we're at the final stages of the game. But, as is often the case with these very complicated games, and in particular games between the strongest players in the world, the final phase is often the most complex and involves considerable calculation. And, well, I think what we're going to see is that Anand is up to the task. So, Ponomariov with black pushed his h-pawn. So this is serious counterplay. Anand has to calculate here. There is no other way through. You can't just bluff and guess. But he's rather good at calculation, and he kept his cool. Let's see how he did it. First of all, Queen b5. I should say there are probably several ways to win this, but the way Anand did it was very practical and very efficient. So he's threatening a big check here on e8. If that knight is taken off, then it releases the bishop, releases the queen across here, the king is in trouble, the pawn is going home, white wins. So to defend against the incursion on e8, black played the queen all the way back to a8 to cover this square. Now, it does still control this diagonal. That's important if he's going to hope for counterplay with the h-pawn. But it's quite a passive square. Okay, Anand still needs to find something constructive, which he did by pushing his own passed pawn. Notice Anand's king is much, much safer than black's king. That plays a significant role. Well, really, black has nothing else to do but to push the h-pawn. So it's coming down the board, but Anand has calculated this out. Now, if black pushes the h-pawn again, then queen b7 is a winning move. If, well, it's almost as though the queen is checkmated, actually. If the queens are exchanged, then the pawn is going to go home. Okay, black gets a queen, but white gets a queen, and, well, with 2 extra pawns, it's and an attack, it's all over. So after c6, Anand's last move, Ponomariov played the bishop to d8 to stop this pawn rolling forward. But you can see that having played these pieces to the back rank, then, well, black is on the ropes here, basically. Now, again, I think there are several ways to win this, but the way that Anand chose is somehow very logical and very practical. So he centralizes his queen first. So he has now claimed this diagonal, which means that he doesn't have to worry too much about the h-pawn, but also he's turning his attention towards black's king. So beautiful centralization. And the move also contains a threat. So in this position, if black were to push the h-pawn again, then c7 is a winning move. So if queen takes, then pawn takes, bishop check, and, well, it's a winning attack, actually. Another check from the bishop. And now here's a nice move. Knight f7, a discovered check. And when this is taken, queen takes d5, takes the queen, and also stops black's pawn queening. So back to this position. So after queen d5, c7 is a threat. So that's why Ponomariov played bishop c7 to block. Okay, but now white turns his attention towards the black king and plays bishop c1. So the threats are starting here. If the knight moves, of course, then queen f7 is mate. And still, this, of course, would be disastrous for many reasons. So it's time to counterattack. Queen a5. I mean, this is desperation, really. Well, but it's actually black's only chance in the position. Well, probably the queens can be exchanged here, but Anand saw something forcing and very clear, actually. Again, very practical. He played knight b5, so keeping this queen on this superbly centralized position, controlling this diagonal, but also starting to generate threats against black's king. And now, bishop takes knight is still a threat. But if the knight moves, well, it's just hopeless. So queen e1. So Ponomariov is thrashing around, looking for ideas. Now this knight can actually be taken, but Vishy saw something else. He gave a check. Okay, he's got to watch out for this. So checked here, and the king came to g7, and knight takes bishop. So Anand has won a piece, but he still has to deal with this h-pawn. Now there is a threat to queen. Of course, he would not have gone in for this if he hadn't calculated. Of course, Anand has worked this out very cleanly. So let's see his analysis. Knight check. If the king goes in the corner, then knight f6, and there's a threat of queen g8 mate, and it's all over. So king h6, and now there's a nice move from Anand. So bringing the knight back into play, threatening bishop f8 checkmate. That's what happens if black queens. So queen e2 check. Now that drags white's bishop back. And now black is basically stuck here. Black really doesn't have a good move. As the queen has moved off the first rank, then it's no longer possible to make a queen. The white queen covers. What else can black do? Well, black would very much like to move the queen in to threaten h1, but then simply knight g4 check forks king and pawn, so that's no good. So basically, black has run out of decent moves here, and, well, for example, queening the c-pawn would be a reasonable plan for white. So Ponomariov tried, well, it's really his last chance, knight e4, which blocks the queen's route down to h1. And there are several ways to win, but Anand chose a very clean way. He simply took this knight off. Black's moves are forced, queen takes and knight takes, and black makes a queen. So he succeeded. But here, after c7, Ponomariov resigned. Of course, queen takes knight will just allow white to queen, and white's a piece up, and, well, several pawns as well. And if queen h3 preventing c8, then simply knight d6 and c8 on the next turn. Excellent calculation from Anand. So 2 rounds to go, and he's almost certain to win the tournament. And I think, he's shown that he is looking like still a worthy opponent for Magnus Carlsen. Remember, the World Championship is only 7 weeks away. The first round is due to be played on the 8th of November. I'll be posting more video clips over the next few weeks in the build-up to the World Championship match. And, well, I'll also be reporting on Fabiano Caruana's progress. I'll be hosting a power play show on playchess.com next week on Thursday the 25th of September. So I'll be advertising that later on. So do join me for that, and I'll be looking at some of Caruana's games from the European Club Championship that is also taking place in Bilbao at the moment.